can take our seats and we can make a start, please.
My name is Bethany Westwood and I'm a Christian, but I haven't always been. Up until the summer of 2017, I lived my life with no real connection or acknowledgement of God. I don't have a dramatic moment that brought me towards faith. It was more of a void in my everyday life that needed reigniting. As I steadily get to the end of my university education and prepare to move home, away from the church, I needed to find out what was next with my relationship with God and with my faith, and how my friends and family felt when I decided to go to church. One of my first experiences after joining the church was a bombardment of questions from curious or maybe confused friends and family. But after speaking to a group from church, I soon realised I wasn't the only one to be overwhelmed by the expectations of others.
The first question you get is why?
I get like a lot of confused looks from people.
Yeah, I've never really had a like slap in the face like, who the heck do you think you are?
Yeah.
I've had people that, well, maybe it's just the people I've asked or told, but yeah, it's normally quite open, I think.
Yeah. Can it be difficult to have friends that don't understand a lot of the time?
A lot of the time you don't need to tell people you're a Christian for them to know that you're different. There's something about you that's different, and they tend to then ask what's different about you rather than you having to tell them.
I think most of the times when someone gets to know me, they'll think, oh, I'm such a great person, and maybe I am. It's not because of who I am, but because of Jesus, that I have Jesus, and He is that whatever they see in me.
I think generally in the world today, like, the crazier you are, the more you do, the more you accept everything, the more you are accepted by others as well.
On that sort of, do you think it's difficult to be different in this sort of world or part in the life?
For sure. You know, where I grew up, there was a lot of Christians around, and it's kind of quite a religious society. You know, so I grew up in that environment, and where in that environment, you kind of, in a religious way, you kind of think, okay, well, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to have fun, you know, do that kind of thing. And at some stage in my life, I'm going to settle down. I'm going to be good, and then I'll start to go to church. You know, that's kind of the progression.
Each day, more and more, you decide what you don't want in your life, and who you don't want to associate with, and what you don't want to associate with. And, you know, little by little, your conversations will change, your thought patterns will change, and slowly, you'll see, like, in 5 years' time, you'll be like, wow, you know, 2 years ago I would have never been like where I am now.
So for me, for someone to say, come to church equaled no fun, you know? So even in us talking the way we have, you know, I think it's important also for people to know, it doesn't mean, okay, now that when you go to church and you become a Christian, listen, game over, you know, then you need to start dressing up in like old sweaters and, you know, wearing...
There was I thinking I should be this perfect person. The more and more I learned through church, the more it's clear that I'm not supposed to be. And surprisingly, God apparently expects me to make mistakes. I remember my mum was so nervous when I told her I was going to church, worried that I was joining a cult, joked that her daughter was being brainwashed. As the year went on, we had more and more discussions about my journey, and she became more and more open about her thoughts and her positions on parts of the Bible from her upbringing. So I needed to talk to her to get her view on the last year and her position with faith now.
Do you remember your first thought when I first said I was going to church?
Yeah, I was shocked but not surprised, if that makes sense. Because you've always been very, what's the word, kind of not mainstream, in the sense where you're prepared to do different things rather than follow the crowd. Okay. You weren't expecting it from a student that's, you know, gone to Bournemouth and, you know, it's not what you expect to hear on the end of the phone that you've decided to go to church.
Yeah, I think I called you on the way to church as well.
You did. I think
I
actually think that you as you've gotten older, you've not told me things straight away, whereas before you used to tell me immediately.
Do you think that I've changed? Because I've been with the church for a year. Like, do you think I've changed at all?
I think your thought process has, in the sense that you kind of think more about your actions, and there's not necessarily repercussions, but if you behave in a certain way or think certain things, you definitely... I mean, you've always been quite sensitive and quite... Different people you're more open to anyway, aren't you? You've always been naturally like that. But I do think your thought process is a bit more thoughtful. Not that you weren't, but do you know what I mean? See, I was brought up as a Catholic, which was quite, for me, as an adult now, I felt it was quite intense. I don't know if the practice was for me.
Yeah.
I do believe there's something up there around us, guiding us in a certain direction. But I think, for me, I had questions that nobody could answer, and I didn't get a lot of it. So I think that's where I became slightly sort of, I don't know, not rebellious towards it, but it was a part of my life, although it was expected of us because the family were all Catholic. So
so obviously I'm coming home at some point soon in the near future.
Oh, I know.
Like, for me, I find it quite nerve-wracking. I don't know, not like coming back to
Really?
it with you.
Oh my God.
Like, but more like kind of not having the church, and because I don't have that here. I don't know. But I think that's because this is the first church I've been to, and the first experience. Like, it's going to be quite strange to leave it.
Well,
Not
yeah, I
leave
mean,
it, but-
in all fairness, it's a big part of your life, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get so comfortable in your daily life, and I've surprised myself with this nervousness of leaving university. I should be ready to take on the world and be an adult, but in fact, I'm scared to leave the people I've grown accustomed to. Next, I wanted to talk to my housemate of 3 years, Kevin. He's always been interested in talking about different faiths, but doesn't have one currently himself. Now that this has become more of my everyday life, I wanted to get his first thoughts about when I started going to church and if it shocked him.
It wasn't really, because at the time you didn't really make it out that you were necessarily going, like, because you had a strong sense of faith. It was more of a sense of, like, you were trying to find yourself. I don't think it was a surprise insofar as it was just you trying to get that experience that nobody else, or that everybody else got as a child. But, like, for you it just kind of worked out, whereas everybody else, they kind of lost their faith, if that makes sense.
So let's switch around to you.
Okay.
What's your kind of relationship with faith or with church? Or
I just started falling out of the church in terms of, I still had problems with all the abuses that went on before. I fell out with, like, a whole idea of, like, I was in church a couple of times and the priest would, like, kind of force an opinion on us. Even though I still had a belief in God and a belief in some overall being, I didn't necessarily believe in what the Catholic Church was preaching. I do want to take a year out where I just travel the world and just explore every religion possible.
Yeah.
And just kind of find what's right for me and find kind of, if I do find God, there is, like, I do find the right one for me, because, like, I do want to believe. I'm just struggling at the moment. But I think the big thing that I'm struggling with is, like funny enough, when you speak about God and how you speak, like, how there's, like, a presence and you feel him and, like, you really feel connected to him. Like, in all the years I went to church and all the years that I prayed, I never necessarily felt connected.
Yeah.
I just felt like I was talking to someone, but, like, not to someone. It was kind of like I was just going a bit mad. So I just want to find that, if I can find that, and if I do, then I'll discover of myself if God is real or if he's not.
Maybe it was because I didn't have any previous knowledge about faith. At the time, it felt like home, like I was going to fill that gap I was feeling in my life. From day one with the church, Dan and Nini have been a massive support in my life, always available to chat and always available to answer my questions. And trust me, there have been a lot of questions. The church has such a close-knit youth group, and I wanted to explore the importance of that. As for me, it has pushed me further in my hunger for knowledge in my Christian life.
You know, when we look at church, well, I can take the example of our church. We can see different people from different background, but also different ages. And I think the Lord doesn't call people just by their age or by what they've done or maybe how mature they are, whatever it is. I think the Lord calls everyone to serve Him, whatever the age, you know. And I believe that young people are such a blessing to the church.
But when God can intervene in a powerful way in our lives at that time, it speaks so loudly to others. Because they say, well, isn't this the time in your life where you should be making the most and having so much fun? Like, why are you, going to church and, serving God?
But it's a long journey. It's not just like the Lord sets you free and that's it, you're holy and no. I mean, you're still who you are.
Yeah.
With everything you went through in life, with everything that you are, and the Lord loves you the same. And also, we don't understand everything by ourselves. We can read the Bible, we can pray, and the Lord can show us things. But like for me, I know there are things in my life that I don't see. And being with one another, someone's life can challenge my life. And I'll be like, oh, it's true. That area where I want to grow in my walk with the Lord. And it encourages me,
I remember the early days and, coming from where you came from and, many doubts, many fears, many things that you're unsure of and but a desire for the things of the Lord, a desire to be born again. That assurance in you has grown, that assurance in your relationship with Jesus, and that assurance, but also your desire to know Him more, and also to engage more and more in the things of God and in the church. And so I've seen a huge change.
Like Dan said, persevered, and you just wanted to know more.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about it, about you, is that you've always been real and you've always asked the questions. Like I always told you, Beth, if you hear something in church and they say, we all know this and you're not sure about it, please note it down. And make sure that you ask the question or you look for yourself, because that's important. And I think that's what's been wonderful to see in you, that you're not scared to ask and to come and to ask the questions and to share, And also just to see you coming to church and feel so at home.
Yeah.
And to know people and to come and not to be like, oh, it's a bit awkward or I'm not sure this one or that one, but you just come and you are part of the family.
Throughout this experience, I've expressed how I was nervous to leave the church and worried that being far from the church would change how I felt about my faith. But from talking to my friends, I've learned that distance doesn't really matter, that if this is what I want, then I can make it happen. My connection to God isn't confined to the walls that we meet for in church. It's built in my heart and it will continue to grow with me.